Let's talk about something we all use every single day, but almost never really think about: money. Its story is way more wild than you'd expect, stretching from ancient seashells all the way to the code that's running our world right now.
But seriously, have you ever stopped to ask yourself that? What actually gives this piece of paper, or these numbers on a screen, any value at all? How is it that you can trade them for something real, like a cup of coffee? You know, the answer to that question? Well, it unlocks the entire story of finance.
Look, with all the buzz around crypto and the future of everything, it's super easy to get lost. But here's the secret: making sense of it all isn't about looking forward. It's actually about looking back. If you want to understand where money is going, you first have to get a grip on what money is at its absolute core. And I'm telling you, the answer is probably not what you think. Okay, so let's just get right into it. What is money, really? Well, the simplest and maybe the most powerful answer is it's just a shared belief. It's a story we all agree to believe in. It's definitely not the paper itself. That stuff has almost no intrinsic value. And as we're about to see, for a long time now, it hasn't really been about the gold sitting in some vault either. So what is it then? At its heart, money is an idea. Or even better, you can think of it as a technology. It's a piece of social tech that we humans invented to solve one of our oldest, biggest problems. How do we trust each other enough to trade? And to really see how that technology has changed over time, we got to go all the way back to the beginning. Back to our first clumsy attempts to trade and our long, long search for something that everyone could agree had value. So before money, you had barter. I'll trade you my 5 chickens for your axe. It sounds simple, right? But it is a nightmare. It has this huge problem that economists call the double coincidence of wants. Basically, you have to find a person who has the axe you want, but they also have to want your chickens. What are the odds of that? It's just incredibly inefficient. So, to solve that barter problem, people started getting creative. Way back around 9000 BC, we started using things like livestock or grain. Then, by 1200 BC, we got a little more sophisticated with commodity money. Stuff like cowrie shells or even salt, because it was durable and easy to carry. But the real game changer came around 600 BC, when the first standardized coins made of gold and silver appeared. Suddenly, we had a reliable, universal way to measure value. And through all of that trial and error, we figured out that for anything to actually work as money, it has to do these 3 jobs perfectly. It's got to be a medium of exchange, an easy way to price things, that's the unit of account, and it has to hold its value over time. If you mess up even one of those, the whole system just falls apart. Now, for most of human history, money was a real physical thing you could hold. But then, pretty recently, in the grand scheme of things, we did something kind of crazy. We took this huge collective leap of faith. We moved away from trading valuable objects and started trading promises. For a long, long time, most of the world was on what's called a gold standard. A dollar bill was valuable because you could, theoretically, walk into a bank and trade it for a specific amount of actual gold. The paper was basically just a convenient claim check for the real stuff. And this is where you see the huge shift. With gold, our trust is in the metal itself. It's rare, it's hard to find, so its supply is limited. But with fiat money, which is what we all use today, the value comes purely from a government saying it has value. A central bank can create more of it, and our trust is no longer in an object, but in the institution that's making the promise. This really means that every dollar, every euro, every yen in your pocket is basically an IOU from a government. Its worth is tied completely to our collective faith that the government or central bank behind it is stable and will honor that promise. We've shifted to a system that runs entirely on institutional trust. And this idea of trust is what brings our whole story right into the present day, and to what might just be the next massive evolution in money, the blockchain revolution. So here's the question that really kicked this all off. It's the question that was on everyone's mind during the 2008 financial crisis, when Bitcoin was created. What happens when our trust in those big central institutions, the promise makers, starts to crack? Is there another way? The answer that was proposed was pretty radical. It was this idea of decentralization. The whole point is to take power and control away from one single point of failure, like a bank or a government, and spread it out across a huge open network where no one person is in charge. The way it works is when you want to make a transaction,
It gets broadcast to this giant network of computers. All of those computers work together to check and make sure the transaction is legit. Once they agree, it gets bundled into a block and added to a public ledger called the blockchain. And because that ledger is copied and stored across the entire network, it's permanent, transparent, and almost impossible to tamper with. And this is the revolutionary part. It's a system designed to replace our trust in institutions with trust in math and code. You don't have to trust a person at a bank. You just have to trust that the code works the way it's supposed to. It's a totally new kind of trust.
So after this journey through literally thousands of years, where does that leave us? What's next for this ever-changing technology of trust?
When you lay it all out, you can really see the evolution, can't you? We went from trusting a physical thing, like gold, to trusting a central institution, like a government. The big question for our future is whether the next great shift is towards trusting a decentralized network, run by code. So, if you take one thing away from all of this, it should be this. Money isn't a static object, it's a technology. A social technology that we are always upgrading, always tinkering with in our never-ending quest to find better ways to cooperate with each other. From shells to gold to government promises, and now, maybe, to pure code, the fundamental technology of how we trust each other is changing right under our feet. And that leaves us with one giant, fascinating question. What on earth are we going to choose to value next?